Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Time for us to have our conversations on CARICOM, and again we're happy to be joined by Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency David Comissiong, and he brings with him Cuba's new Ambassador to Barbados, Her Excellency Yanet Stable Cardenas. Good morning to both of you.
Good
Good morning, Pearson. It's a pleasure
Ambassador,
to be here.
indeed. Ambassador, I'll start with you. This relationship that Barbados has with Cuba goes back decades, and it's one that has been growing and deepening for a little while. And now here we are. We would have just had Pastrana, the last ambassador, and here we have a new ambassador. Talk to me a little bit about what it means now and the kinds of relationship we need to forge further with Cuba, with the new ambassador.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes, we really want to welcome her, my colleague, Her Excellency Yanet Stable Cardenas. She is the second female Cuban ambassador we have had here in Barbados, following Lisette Perez. From the point of view of Barbados, the relationship with Cuba is a very, very special relationship. In fact, I would say from the point of view of CARICOM, it's a very special relationship. Every CARICOM, independent CARICOM country has an embassy in Cuba, and Cuba likewise has an embassy in every single independent CARICOM country. That doesn't obtain with any other country anywhere in the world. So this is a special relationship. And I always tell people that the people of Barbados and the people of Cuba share a lot in common, particularly when you're talking about our value system. We are a people, both of us, both Cubans and Barbadians, that really have a sense of the value and sacredness of human beings. So we take it as a matter of fundamental policy. Every person in our society must have proper access to education, healthcare, housing, etc. And that's the kind of value system that binds us together. And we shouldn't take it for granted, because in many countries, that value system does not really exist. So we embrace our Cuban brothers and sisters, and we are very happy to have Yanet here. She replaces Sergio Pastrana, who the Barbadian people got to know very well.
Yes.
And we want the Barbadian people to get to know Yanet just as much.
Ambassador Stable Cardenas, good morning. Welcome to Barbados.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You would have heard Ambassador Comissiong speak to the relationship that we've had with Cuba over decades, and we want to continue having that relationship. But you came to Barbados, you brought the football team from Cuba, and you beat us. What a way to start.
That's true. That's true. But we still have brothers.
Yes, indeed.
And that game was as part of the CONCACAF Nations League. So, but I think it's an expression of what we can do in the future to have sport events between Barbados and Cuba. And we think that sport is one of the areas that we can increase the relationships, increase the exchange. And that is very good for both people.
I know, coming out of recent talks at CARICOM, we're looking at other ways to deepen that relationship between CARICOM and Cuba, Barbados and Cuba. How else do you see, while you serve as the Cuban ambassador to Barbados, how else do you see that we can further deepen that relationship?
Well, I think we will continue the working that has been done by the former Ambassador Pastrana. And as a result of the last visit of our President, Miguel Diaz-Canel, to Barbados to have a bilateral visit, an official bilateral visit, and to participate in the 80 CARICOM Cuba Summit, they have very good meetings, very good, and they took very good agreements among both governments regarding to increase and to make better the relationships between our people and our governments. In that terms, I think we can mention the potential that we have in the relationships regarding to health, education, cultural exchange, sports, agriculture, trade, building restoration and heritage preservation, mitigation of disaster risks. So we have many areas on where we can work together to get benefits from both sides.
For sure, you know you have the support of the nations of CARICOM in the fight that Cuba has to lift the embargo that's placed on you. How else do you see yourself broadening the awareness across the Caribbean and the work that you do here in Barbados so that we forge even that closer relationship with the peoples of Cuba?
So we have to thank deeply to the people of Barbados to support us in this struggle. It has been a struggle for more than 60 years since the 1960 that was imposed that blockade, that criminal policy against the people of Cuba. But we thanks to the people in Barbados to support us in the multilateral sphere, the multilateral space, and in bilateral um, relation to regarding to demand the condemned the lift of the embargo and sorry the lift of the blockade because it's the genocide policy against the people of Cuba. And at the same time, we thanks to the people of Barbados to support us in the demand and the condemn of the inclusion of Cuba in the list of the state sponsor of terrorism that the government of the United States have been imposed to some of countries in the world. But in the case of Cuba, we have been in that list is something that we want to thank the support of people in Barbados and in the rest of the world in demanding on that kind of injustice imposition to Cuba.
There's a visit now to Barbados from a delegation from the Cuba's Institute of Friendship with the Peoples of the World. What's the purpose of that visit?
So we have gratefully we have received the visit of two members of the Cuban Institute for Friendship with People. Their names are Lilia Zamora. She's the director of the Latin America and Caribbean Division in the ICAP. And Tamara Armenteros, who is in charge of the English Caribbean countries in that division. They are making a tour through Caribbean countries, and we had the pleasure to receive them here. And we have been the supporter of the Association of Friendship Barbados Cuba that organized the program here in Barbados. Especially, we have to thank to David Dennis, that is the president of this association. And the delegation had the opportunity to meet with some personalities, political, cultural, and social personalities here in Barbados, such as the member of the Barbadian Parliament, Prescott, Mr. Prescott, and the ambassador of Barbados to CARICOM, Mr. Comissiong. Members, they also met with members of the Solidarity Movement and with Cuban collaborators in sports and, of course, with a member of the medical brigade here. We had the opportunity to visit the monument in memory of those who lost their life in the terrorist actions against the Cuban aircraft flight on October 6th of 1967. 1976. The CAP delegation also promote the Caribbean meeting of solidarity with Cuba that will be held in Santiago de Cuba from July 23rd to 26th of 2023 in the framework of the 70th anniversary of the assault of the Moncada and Carlos Manuel de barracks. This event will be a tribute to the legacy of the Commander-in-Chief, Fidel Castro.
Ambassador Comissiong, what I'm sensing coming already is that there is a warmth from this new ambassador of Cuba to Barbados, indeed, and that connection will be one that is absolutely rewarding and refreshing as well. And so, in welcoming her, I know you're going to be visiting shortly the monument and so forth. What else do you think that we will be exposing the new ambassador Yanet to, so that she gets a full sense and a good footing into who we are and what we are?
Well, she's being very modest because she really hit the ground running from the time she arrived here. She's already done quite a bit of work. We have, coming out of the Cuba Barbados conference in December of last year, we have a very ambitious cooperation program. And she has already been organizing meetings. We have had meetings, virtual meetings between personnel here in Barbados and personnel in Cuba. We are already beginning to put a number of those initiatives into effect. In fact, she may not even be aware, but the very last thing I did before leaving the office yesterday evening was to send her an email outlining the members of the Barbados side of the joint Barbados-Cuba task force to implement all of the cooperation initiatives. So we are setting up. We're in the process of setting up the task force. I will lead the Barbados side of the task force. But even as we go about setting up the task force, we have already started to do things to actually implement. And I want to say to Barbadians that Barbados and Cuba are really deepening this relationship. We are going to be encouraging young Barbadian artists to go to Cuba to experience all that Cuba has to offer in terms of training, in collaboration. We are going to be emphasizing tourism linkages between Barbados and Cuba. Right now, we have a direct flight. Caribbean Airlines has a direct flight out of Trinidad to Cuba. Very soon, there will be a second direct flight out of St. Vincent to Cuba. So we really want to encourage all of the possible people-to-people linkages, student groups going to Cuba, experiencing Cuba. I keep telling the story that 20 years ago, I was involved in arranging for a group of 65 young Barbadian musicians from the Barbados National Youth Orchestra to go to Cuba to spend a month at Cuba's National School of Music, practicing their instruments with top-class Cuban musicians. And I mean, their standard of playing just exploded. And today, a number of the outstanding professional musicians of Barbados today, guys and ladies in their mid-30s, are persons from that group 20 years ago. We're talking about people like Kevin Lynch of the Royal Barbados Police Band, Jomo Slusher, some of the top guys, right? So there's so much that on both sides we can gain from this relationship. And Barbadians need to stay tuned. They're going to hear a lot more from both myself and Ambassador Yanet about the many initiatives that are coming to the fore now.
Ambassador Comissiong, I want to thank you so very much for joining us. We have some pictures we want to share of some of those moments that you've had already. And there we are. And could you explain for us, Ambassador Comissiong?
That's at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So that's the group. The two ladies from ECAP, Institute for Friendship Peoples, David Denny, well known to Barbadians, and the ambassador. That's them at the, of course, at the Cubano Monument. Any group of Cubans that come to Barbados, it is obligatory. They feel the need to visit the Cubano Monument. That's them with many of the nurses. There are many Cuban nurses still serving us here in Barbados, and we are forever grateful for the service that the Cuban nurses provided for us during COVID. That's them, of course. That was a special reception at the Cuban embassy on Saturday, and that's them with Senator John King.
Wonderful.
One family.
One love, family indeed. Ambassador Stable Cardenas, now you understand the warmth we feel for the peoples of Cuba, and we're going to extend the very same to you while you serve as Cuba's ambassador to Barbados. We welcome you to our home, and we hope that you feel at home with us as we do feel at home with Cubans. We thank you for the service that you continue to offer in that relationship, and we look forward to having more interactions with you in our conversations on CARICOM as well. Welcome again to Barbados.
Thank you so much again, and I feel like at home. Thank you.
You're very welcome indeed. And to you, Ambassador Comissiong, thank you so much again for joining us this morning and bringing her along. And I'm sure that we will have more interactions with her as time goes by. Thank you so much.
Oh, definitely.
Indeed.
Thank you, Chris.
Pleasure. You're very welcome indeed. We've been having our conversation on CARICOM this morning with Barbados Ambassador to Comissiong, His Excellency David Comissiong. We also got a chance to meet this morning Her Excellency Yanet Stable Cardenas, who is Cuba's Ambassador to Barbados, newly installed. And certainly now you know her face, now you know her voice, now you understand better her mission. We will continue to give them our support as our brothers and sisters in Cuba, like us, would need that help.
Morning, morning,